Good day and greetings from the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas, where skies are clear and stars shine bright. And welcome to We've Got Books. I'm Ann Green with Jim Yarborough, and we invite you to join us here at We've Got Books. And yes, we have many books waiting for you in a variety of genres. Definitely something for everyone. We've Got Books is guaranteed to be informative and fun. It is our pleasure to feature guest authors and their books, along with our books too. We'll chat with each author and get to know the person and the novel. We promise to delight you with great Christian fiction. And now Jim Yarborough is set to interview our guest author today, Sherry Shindelar. So grab your coffee or tea, cola or ice water, and sit back and enjoy this exciting ride into the literary world. So take it away, Jim and Sherry.
Well, thank you, Ann. Sherry, welcome to We've Got Books. It's really a pleasure to have you with us today, and I'm sure the listeners would love to get to know you. So as we start out, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm originally from Tennessee. I'm a romantic at heart. I love history, and I enjoy taking readers into the past. My faith's an integral part of my life, and I work to weave it into my stories. I'm an award-winning author, and I'm passionate about my craft. But when I'm not writing, I'm a high school English professor, and I work to pass on my love of writing to my students. And currently, I live in Minnesota with my husband of 40 years, and we have 3 grown children and 3 grandchildren.
Well, that sounds wonderful, Sherry. And since you're an English professor, you're probably no stranger to writing at all. How long have you been writing?
Well, I've been in love with stories since I was a child. I used to swing for hours in my swing set, pumping my legs back and forth, dreaming up stories in my head. Even then, I had a flair for romance, created new love interests and episodes for Captain Star Trek's Captain Kirk. And my favorite possession at age 9 was a set of author playing cards. It was a matching game with photos of famous authors. I wanted to be an author when I grew up and bring stories to life on a written page, stories that would impact my readers. And the years went by, and I visited a historic home in the Shenandoah Valley when my husband and I were newly married. That's what spurred my love for history and planted the seed for a story. A few years later, I wrote the novel, but then I buried it in a box in my closet when it didn't get published right away. I returned to college to earn a degree in creative writing and eventually a PhD in literature. But I wondered if I'd ever reconnect with the stories in my head, the ones buried deep in my heart. But then, in the summer of 2019, the Lord opened my heart to fall in love with writing all over again. And it's been my daily passion ever since. I pulled the box out and buried the past, and my new writing life was born.
You know, Sherry, on We've Got Books, we've interviewed different authors with quite different stories about how they started writing, but it certainly seems you've played the long game, so to speak. You've had a lifelong interest in storytelling and writing. What sort of Christian fiction do you write now?
Oh, I write a Christian historical romance. I love to be able to weave my faith into my writing, and plus I'm captivated by history, and I love romance.
Well, sounds like a good fit. I certainly share your interest in history, too. Can you give us some details about one of your books?
Well, Texas Forsaken is an enemies to lovers captive narrative that takes place on the Texas frontier on the eve of the Civil War. The man who destroyed her life may be the only one who can save it. 7 years ago, Maggie Logan, also known as Eyes Like Sky, lost everything she knew when a raid on a wagon train tore her from her family. As the memories of her past faded to nothing more than vague shadows, Maggie adapted, married a Comanche warrior, having a baby, and rebuilding her life. But in one terrible battle, the U.S. cavalry destroys her life, and she's taken captive again, but this time by those who call themselves her people. Forced into a world she wants nothing to do with, Eyes Like Sky's only hope of protecting her child may be an engagement to the man who killed her husband. Enrolled in West Point to escape his overbearing father, Captain Garrett Ramsey has graduated and finds himself assigned to the Texas frontier. Witnessing the brutal Indian War in which both sides committed atrocities. Plagued by guilt for his own role, Garrett seeks redemption by taking responsibility for the woman he widowed and her baby. Though he's determined to do whatever it takes to protect her, is he willing to risk everything for a woman whose heart is buried in a grave? Or is there hope she might heal to love once more?
That is a very dramatic plot, all right. Is there a movie or TV show that's reminiscent of your book?
Well, I found a couple of one I saw recently, All the News of the World, starring Tom Hanks, except my story is a romance. Or further back, The Searchers, starring John Wayne, is another. The Searchers and Texas Forsaken were both inspired by the real-life story of Cynthia Ann Parker, the most famous captive in 19th century America. She lived with the Comanche about 24 years before the Texas Rangers and U.S. Cavalry stole her back and returned her to the world she wanted nothing to do with. In Texas Forsaken, I based my heroine on a portion of Cynthia Ann's life before her recapture. But Eyes Like Sky is a different person with a different life trajectory. Cynthia Ann Parker died of a broken heart. I wanted a happy ending. And just a little side note, last year, I was on a research trip in Texas, and I stopped over in Oklahoma. I went to Fort Sill, and I saw Cynthia Ann's grave site. She's buried there with her daughter, Prairie Flower, and her son, Quanah Parker, the most famous chief of the Comanches. He had loved his mother, loved his sister, and went and found their graves in Texas and brought them there to Oklahoma, where he knew he would be buried. But, it's a special moment just getting to be there, at that grave site.
That sounds special. Those are good analogies. And you probably well know that, speaking of history and Cynthia Ann Parker, her son, Quanah Parker, you mentioned, was one of the last Comanche chiefs. And that's a story that's pretty well known in Texas. The town of Quanah, Texas, which is northwest of Fort Worth, off US 287, is named for him. You may know that. And I think there are a lot of residents in our neck of the woods, Dallas, Fort Worth, who are aware of that story. So it's certainly a poignant one. And I know you must have benefited a lot by researching it. Could you please read us an excerpt from Texas Forsaken?
September 1860, Peace River, Texas. Eyes Like Sky's arms ached. She had spent the morning beneath a gnarled hackberry, cleaning the buffalo hide. Granular bits of dirt and gristle bored into her bare knees below the bottom of her bunched skirt. Better her knees take the brunt of the filth than her buckskin garment. No whimpers or babble from little Star today to keep her company. Owl Woman, her husband's mother, had volunteered to watch the baby for the morning. The infant would enjoy a chance to escape the cradleboard and wiggle her tiny limbs. Blushes of red and yellow wove their tapestry across the patches of oaks and cottonwoods, turning their leaves into brightly colored jewels. Autumn, despite the sprigs of a new growth poking up amongst the withered grasses. There was much to be done before winter swooped south from the northern plains. A buffalo robe and new moccasins to finish, not to mention a seasoned supply of pemmican to preserve. A shout cut the air. A distant war whoop crackled on the breeze, billowing across a narrow valley. Eyes Like Sky froze in mid-scrape, her fingers curled around the pumice stone. From within the Comanche camp, more cries rang out, bouncing off the rust-colored canyon walls. The raiding party had been sighted. She pushed up off the half-treated hide. Her husband, Dancing Eagle, would be with them. Her heart galloped. Grease coated her arms and clothing. She grimaced. It didn't matter that Dancing Eagle would understand. She knelt and rubbed her hands against the grass, wiping away the minced basswood bark and buffalo brains she used for the softening the hides. The warriors would stop to deck themselves in full regalia and paint before entering the camp. Even their horses would be decorated for the victorious entry, time enough for her to get clean. With a change of clothes laid on the bank, she stepped over the sprawling roots of the cottonwood tree and into the creek. The cool water pricked her skin as she plunged to the center and scrubbed with a sponge. Dancing Eagle had gifted her from his raid into Mexico last spring. He never mentioned how many Mexicans had died. He wouldn't discuss it this time either, except this time it might be Texans. She would see the horses and the cattle. The whole village would celebrate with a dance. And she'd celebrate too, that he'd come back alive, that maybe that's instilled enough fear that their village would be left in peace, and that no one recalled she had once been Texan too.
I love that. It's very effective, your description of nature there. It's very enjoyable. Well, what about some other characters in Texas Forsaken? Can you give us a little bit more information about them?
Well, my favorite is Eyes Like Sky. She's a heroine of the novel, as I just read to you. At the beginning, she loses everything except for her baby girl. But she isn't defeated. She's determined to do whatever it takes in order to protect and provide for her daughter in a hostile society far from home, the home that she'd come to know with the Comanche. She learns that God isn't as far away as the stars, but as near as her heart. And she learns to forgive and open her heart to second chances. And then there's her baby, Little Star. Little Star is a page stealer as she grows up into toddlerhood. I have had a number of readers ask to see more of her in the future. And I can't forget Captain Garrett Ramsey. He's the hero. He is a man of honor who is willing to sacrifice everything that matters to him in order to make amends for his past.
Good. Thank you. Sherry, what would you say is the theme of Texas Forsaken?
Well, it's a story of forgiveness, redemption, and second chances.
Yes. So let's now take a step back with a more general question, if we could. What do you think is the hardest part of being an author, and why?
Well, I think it's waiting for the first agent or editor or publisher to say yes to your manuscript. It can take years or even decades. And you're left wondering if it's ever going to happen. I felt like I was moving toward my goals at turtle speed. But God had a plan. And in his perfect timing, he threw open the doors for me to receive my first book contract in June of 2023. And when it finally happened, the Lord answered my prayers beyond expectations.
Waiting is hard, isn't it? But that was a wonderful outcome for you, so congratulations. So then, what's the best part of your life as an author, and why?
I think the best part is seeing readers get excited about something I've written and seeing it impact and capture their hearts.
Good, great. What else should readers know about you?
Well, I love setting my stories in real places, and I like to work to weave in real or maybe lesser known historical events. I enjoy researching to find just the right place at the right time to set my stories.
Yeah, good. So where can listeners find your books?
Texas Forsaken is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other online retailers.
And do you have a newsletter and perhaps a website?
Well, I'd love to connect with my readers through my monthly newsletter. Readers can sign up through my website. That's sherryshindelar.com. That's SherryShindelar.com. They can sign up on my website. They will receive a free Civil War short story, give them a taste of characters coming in the future. But my newsletter is the best place to find writing updates, historical nuggets from my research, and kind of peeks into my personal life in a devotional or two. It's also the very first place where I make reader gifts available. Like recently, I made the epilogue for Texas Forsaken available to my newsletter subscribers.
That's great. Boy, your website sounds like a good place for listeners to go. And newsletter also is full of good information. So thank you. Sherry, this has been a wonderful interview. Thank you very much for your time and all the information. And good luck with your continued writing.
Thank you.
Once again, our time has flown by. So we must say goodbye from deep in the heart of Texas. We hope you've enjoyed your time with us as much as we enjoyed having you. Join us next week when we interview our guest author, M. Jean Pike. and her contemporary romance novel, Superheroes. I'm Anne Green with Jim Yarborough saying so long for now and read a good book to keep those brain cells active. We hope you'll choose one of our remarkable books from We've Got Books. See you next time. Remember, keep exploring the world through reading.